evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to an evening of remembrance. Tonight's event is inspired by 34 students from MVHS, along with 100 other students from the high schools throughout Anglophone North School District who traveled to Normandy region of France this past June to participate in ceremonies and events commemorating the 75th anniversary of D-Day. These students, some of whom are here tonight in the audience and in our performance, literally walked in the footsteps of the soldiers of the North Shore Regiment, retracing the regiment's hard-fought journey from Juno Beach throughout Normandy and all the way to Belgium and the Netherlands. Many of these men were from our own community, and many of us are descendants of these men. We are here to pay homage to all those who died in the protection of the values and liberties we hold dear to our hearts today. Tonight's presentation will take you on a journey from Chatham to the training grounds of Woodstock and across the Atlantic to the bloody shores of Normandy and beyond. Your guide will be Father Raymond Miles Hickey, pastor and spiritual advisor for the North Shore Regiment, who so skillfully and poetically recorded his war experiences in a book called The Scarlet Dawn. Our story is indeed indebted to him for its inspiration. Our presentation is a story of hope, of courage, of bravery, and a story of loss, of sacrifice, and of sorrow. Above all, its intent is to bring the voices of the past back to life on this stage so that we never forget their ultimate sacrifice. We will remember them.
Canada cast her lot with England in the New World War. The Dominion Parliament, meeting in the historic Government House in Ottawa, officially declares war for the first time in Canada's history as a separate dominion. War against Nazi Germany, in a proclamation signed by the Governor-General of Canada and immediately forwarded to the King. Thus, Canada takes the first step in mobilizing her vast resources in men and materials in defense of the British Empire. Recruiting begins with a rush throughout the Dominion.
It was a Sunday morning. As quiet and beautiful as it can only be along the Miramichi in early September. I had sung the High Mass for Father Burns, the parish priest, and strolled back to the college. It was so peaceful. Even in the college there was a death-like silence. The thundering herd, the student body, had not yet returned. Up in my room I sat and looked at that picture below. There was the Miramichi, that Rhine of America, flowing as softly as a stream of molten silver. Across the way, the bells of that beautiful church were telling the engines. From every chimney top, a curl of faint blue smoke announced the approach of day. Touch as soft and gentle as the touch of pain in summer.
All I need to add at the moment is that Canada, as a free nation of the British Commonwealth, is bringing her cooperation voluntarily. Our effort will be voluntary. The people of Canada will, I know, face the days of stress and strain which lie ahead with calm and resolute courage. There is no home in Canada, no family, and no individual whose fortunes and freedom are not bound up in the present struggle. I appeal to my fellow Canadians to unite in a national effort to save from destruction all that makes life itself worth living, and to preserve for future generations those liberties and institutions which others have bequeathed to us.
Clouds of war have gathered and burst. This time there is no umbrella large enough to stop the flood. Impossible. Who could hate whom in a world so peaceful?
In June of 1940, across the North Shore region, young men clamored to the recruiting stations to join the mobilizing North Shore Regiment. Men joined out of patriotism and to protect their freedom and values. Many were attracted to the salary, which paid well in comparison to the jobs of the time. Wages earned by farming, fishing, or working in the woods had a hard time competing against the $1 per day which the military was offering. This was a relief to many as the country was coming out of the high unemployment era of the Great Depression. Many men of the North Shore would send generous amounts of their income home to support their own families. By the end of June, the North Shore Regiment was sent to Woodstock, New Brunswick to begin basic training. It was there that the regiment was together as one group for the first time, and it was also the beginning of a bond that would see the men through the trials and hardships that were ahead of them.
Attention! Left, quick, march. Father, the regiment is yours.
I caught the meeting. Went to during Mass, the men I had there were under my charge. I turned to get a first look at my men. What a picture they were. All lined up, just like little boy Blue lines up his toy soldiers. As calm and attentive as if they would carve a tree oak. Master. Never have I seen or felt more tension at Mass. Is it novelty? I don't think so. I've always found soldiers respectful and attentive at Mass. Sermon time. And I turned and looked over that sea of khaki. I got a thrill. I felt at home. Could have talked on for an hour. Talked for 2 minutes and a half. Before that I realized the power of words. Never had I felt the real thrill that can come to speaker and listener alike. As I did that morning. Yet, what I said was so simple. I told them simply that I was their priest. I would come to live their life with them. I would come to help them save their immortal souls. Even if it meant death. I'm pointing to my tent at the end of the lines. I told them the flaps of that tent would be open to them night and day. When they were in trouble, the Lord would let them down. The winding path that led to my tent, leading to one who will understand.
Father, got to the heart of the regiment. Only 2 minutes and a half. 1 minute. Squad, attention! Single file from the left, quick, march.
What is it, my boy?
You said if we couldn't write, you would write for us.
Sir.
Could you, Could you write me a love letter?
Lad, I am a master of love letters. Sunday, August 18th, 1940. Then, now you tell me what you wanted to say, and I'll write everything down word for word.
Dear Mary,
Yes.
I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you.
Yes, yes, I've got that. How much?
I love you. Well, I love you as much as I love the Lord.
Very good, my boy. There now. I suppose you'll say I should have dragged him out and burned him at the stake for heresy. No, not I. That was simply his way of telling Mary he loved her an awful lot. And I like to think that their marriage 6 months later was the result of that high-powered love letter.
Father!
What is it, my boy? Something wrong at home?
Yeah, it's my girl, Lily, from back home. Gosh, I met her at a dance in Loganville a while back. Gosh, Father, she's got long blonde hair, these big blue eyes. She's got the softest skin, Father. Oh, and she smells like lilac. She is 18 and real built for battle. Sorry, Father.
Oh, it's quite all right. Continue.
Well, Lily's all riled up. See, she's been talking to people back home and found out that I might have been with a girl or two before. See, there was Louise Taylor and Gina Clancy, Betsy Summers. Wait, no. Betsy was before Gina. Now, there was Laura and Emily and, right. Well, Father, Lily has looked up my pedigree and found to my discredit a long line of jilted lady friends and wants to know what proof she has that she isn't in for the same fate.
Are you familiar with the Irish poet Thomas More?
I'm afraid I'm not.
Well, he found himself in much the same situation. When he was a young man, Tom's latest lady friend was accused of what you were accused of, and wanted to know what assurance he could give her, how he could explain his actions. He wrote this to her. The bee from many garden rows, and woos the flowers o'er and o'er. But when he finds the flower he loves, he nestles there and comes no more. Right back to you.
Boys, Father, you're a genius.
Many times after that, I would playfully tease the young officer and elicit a laugh from him as I passed him and say, "Is the bee still humming, Hector?"
Did you see how pretty mine was? She was great. When Irish eyes are smiling.
Quiet! What? Sean O'Chatham to hear us? Besides, she was English, not Irish.
Oh, you're right, you're right. When English eyes are smiling. Oh my.
Oh, that'll be all, Sean O'Chad. The last two little lambs are in for the evening.
Howdy! I heard you and Thomas got into a racket with Father Nicky last night.
More like we got into a racket with Sean O'Chatham.
Smelled you coming, did he?
I tripped on the guy wire and hit his tent.
I swear that Chamberlain's a German Shepherd.
Yeah, it's probably right out of Berlin.
Serves you right coming in late.
Oh, boys. If you'd only seen those two English girls, you'd know why we were late.
How late were you?
How drunk were you? Well, we weren't drunk much.
I gotta tell you, something's gotta be done about that dog.
We could poison them. Nah, it's gotta be subtle though. Looked like an accident.
Like that time you tried to drown him in the river. Only Father Nicky caught you.
And you told him you were giving the dog a bath. Well, what was I gonna say? I was John the Baptist?
From 1941 to 1944, the North Shore Regiment maintained a steady routine of training in numerous training exercises that had been competing with other Canadian regiments in the division. Time and time again, the North Shore proved itself to be the best assault division in the Canadian Army, winning first place countless times over better-known regiments like the Queen's Own Rifles. By 1943, training became more intensified, with miles of marching and practice beach assaults in landing craft. Even off the training grounds, the North Shore excelled. The regiment won the 3rd Canadian Division Heavyweight Boxing Championship and Track and Field Championship. They also went on to win the Canadian Army Hockey and Baseball Championships as well. The men of the North Shore, though far from home, made the best of this experience. They became part of the fabric of everyday life on the southern coast of England and were well known for their visits to the pubs and their taste for beer.
I swear, if I have to stand at attention one more time,
The King of England, Montgomery, is now eyes of power. Get enough brass record for a marching
and
band.
you've got enough hot air to play it.
Hardy, har, har.
All right, calm down, boys. Round of drinks, barkeep.
I'm serious though. We had to stand in the heat at attention for over 2 hours.
Then Montgomery gets up on that Jeep.
Let me tell you, boys, I never saw a man strut on the hood of a Jeep before.
Tired of the peacock, he was. I can't believe you guys would do that. You're supposed to be my friends.
We are.
Took that weekend pants right out of my trousers.
Buddies.
I was supposed to meet that girl I met in Shorter again for a month now.
Pals.
To be arrested on recognition? Why would you guys do that?
Bosom companions.
They arrested me. They didn't. It was Saturday. It wasn't. It took them all day for it to get it straightened out. It didn't. I missed the train.
And the girl.
And the girl. You know, with friends like you guys, who needs the Germans?
Round of drinks, barkeep.
Hey, Howie. How's it going?
Oh, not bad. Just thinking.
Thinking. What you got there? The old North Shore.
It's just a song I wrote. I had it recorded and everything.
Would you look at that? We got ourselves a regular Mozart.
Yeah.
What's it about?
Oh, you know, army life. Just the day-to-day stuff. I don't know. It feels like we've been here in England training forever. I mean, everybody's itching to get to this war, but all we ever do is train. I don't know. I have to get my thoughts down. Help me take my mind out.
Well, how's it go?
Oh, well, not much of what you call a songwriter, and I'm even less of what you call a singer.
Well, there's a record player over there. Why don't you play it for us?
Well, all right.
Well, please don't take away the old North Shore. We'll need them by and by. Everybody in the old North Shore is willing to do or die. Now what I mean to say is that the old North Shore is second to the Navy on the sea. And I wasn't for the old North Shore, where would shore have me? Have you ever heard the story of the old North Shore? If not, it's time you did. Some songs sell for 2 and 6. This tune's worth half a quid. It's been sung in every pub along the whole south coast by ATFs, wives and friends as well. Why, it's even reached our shore and they're waiting there for more. So raise your voice and yell. We've been waiting here for about years or more. No fighting have we seen. But when we came to fight for right, for honor and liberty, but soon the day will come, the sight from the sea, our bitter foe will vanish like the dawn. And though our hearts are pining, keep the old flag flying, the North Shore carries on. There's no need to worry about the old North Shore, her flag still flying high. Oh, 6 months drilling of an Eric Square, morale is none too high. Well, we all love the Army, and PT is swell, monotony will never get us down. But give us just one chance, put us on the road for cracks, watch the North Shores go to town. Our CEO is a man who doesn't give a damn, and neither does our true YC. The company commanders are Andy McMahon, they come from America. The 2 ICs of all the rifle companies, they had everyone goddamn waiting. And if it wasn't for the NCOs and subalterns, where would the North Shore be? So please don't take away the old North Shore, we'll keep them high and high. Everybody in the old North Shore is willing to do or die. Now what I need to say is that the old North Shore is second to the Navy on the sea. And if it wasn't for the old North Shore, where would shore have been? Yeah!
The North Shore Regiment's superb performance and training earned them a spot to be one of the initial assault units to hit Juno Beach. During the month of May 1944, men and materials were on the move to the southern coast of England. Security was tightened, leaves were cancelled, and the men knew something was happening. Slowly, the details were revealed. The North Shore would hit the beach, codenamed Nan Red, at a small fishing town of Saint-Aubin-sur-Mer. The landing was set for June 5th, but due to bad weather, it was postponed to the morning of June 6, 1944.
All right, boys.
Dear mother, if you lose the family sieve, you don't have to buy another. You can have my 10.
Hey, careful, Jimmy, don't you know? Loose lips sink ships.
Yeah, you wouldn't want Hitler to find out you got a leaky tent.
Secrecy is the watchword.
Censorship. What do they think we're going to do? Send the battle plans home?
Dear Mom, storming the beaches of Normandy in 2 days. Thought you might like to know our exact troop movement. Well, you know what they say. Mom tells Pop, Pop tells Pete, Mom tells Pop, Pop tells Uncle Pete.
And Uncle Pete tells Hitler. I never liked your Uncle Pete.
Funny, he never liked you.
Hey boys, I think I wrote one that'll pass the old censors. Dear Mother, I am here in the place I came to after I left the place where I was before. Now before I left the place where I was before and came to the place where I came.
Did you guys finish making your wills?
Of course.
There's an order.
Kind of work if you ask me. Kind of final if you ask me. I mean, we're heading to France in 2 days and they ask us to write our wills.
It's as if we aren't coming back or something.
Look, kid, you don't have to write up your will when you're going to a garden party.
I think I am expressing what most men felt wanting the invasion. When I say that I wish I could always be as ready for death as I was that morning. While preparing the men, I have not forgotten my own soul. I realized that every man who has ever gone into action realizes that only readiness to meet death can give you the courage to face it. Of course, some people have steadier nerves and more natural courage than others. Maybe that some can face action through sheer natural courage. I found that those who relied solely on it finally broke the strain. Another fact. Any fellow that tells you he wasn't afraid in action just wasn't in action. Every man was afraid, well afraid in action. It's only natural to be afraid of death. And it is not unheroic to be so. A hero is not a person who doesn't feel fear. Person who, despite of fear, carries on and performs his duty.
Major Matheson, I will say it again. You should retire from active service. Archie, you've done your bit for king and country. You fought in the First World War. Gone above and beyond training these lads for what's to come.
I have a responsibility to those boys, to those men, and their parents, for their welfare for as long as I'm able to breathe. I've been with them all the way. I can't make it any plainer than that. My place is with them. Besides, I think I've earned the right to stay. Dear Grace, I wish I could talk to you tonight, for there's so much I would like to talk over. Don't worry if you don't hear from me for some time, regularly. I've had 5 letters from you last Thursday. The latest was 8 days coming. It was so nice to get to lunch. Also had one from Maine, one from Annie. I haven't very much news to give you. There's so much I can tell you. This has been a busy time. I'm awful glad I was in it. No matter how things go, Grace, Dave has been very kind to us. I've had many pleasures to look on. All has been very pleasant. I hope we can be together again and enjoy many years together. I can't advise you about the future, my dear, for life has too many problems. Just decide as they come along. You have been very good to me, so that I wasn't able to give you more of the comforts of life. But it was good fun working together. It was so nice to finish things together. Fancy and Margie, take care of Mother. If you like the farm, Fancy, stay on it, but I leave that to yourself. Any place is worthwhile as long as you like the work. Always do your part, and be proud of the name you have. I would love to see you all now, for you will have changed so. This may sound very blue, but I'm feeling rather lonely tonight. And I know what is ahead. I hope you are all keeping well. Health is the main thing. 3 months are up for another leave, but I won't get away now. Glad the lambs are doing so well. I always liked to work with sheep. Good night, dear people. I will tell you one day where I wrote this letter. all my love to you. And may God take care of you all. As ever, Archie.
There will be a 20-minute intermission before the second act. I invite everyone out to the lobby. We have coffee, tea, and sweets for all our audience members. See you shortly. What the men of the North Shore Regiment experienced was harrowing, to say the least. Those fortunate to survive the war carried those memories with them for the rest of their lives. In a moment, you will hear the voices of those men come alive to retell those experiences from 1944, when the men went out to meet the Scarlet Dawn.
The seas were rough and most were seasick. It was dark and gloomy. As we got close to the beach, bullets started hitting the landing craft and it pitched and rolled in the seas. I was scared. All at once, the landing ramp was lowered and it was time to do what we had trained to do for months. Men fell in front of me in an instant. Bullets were coming into the craft. Men were being hit as they tried to get out. Some began turning back. They were scared.
I was scared. A blast of machine gun fire from behind us spraying the floor. A loud voice yelling, "Get out and fight! Get out and fight!" I think the reason the men were turning back was they were being hit with incoming bullets. They never had a chance. Never even stepped off the boat and they were already wounded. Dead. So, with the sound of bullets and the yell of, "Get out and fight!" echoing around me, I stepped off the boat into the deep water.
The beach was sprayed from all angles by the enemy machine guns, and their mortars and heavy guns began hitting us. The noise was deafening. Enemy shells were screaming here.
There were bodies floating in the water, shot or drowned. I could hear the bullets as they passed me, hitting the water all around me. It was just like rain.
We crawled along the beach. Bullets and shrapnel cutting into the sand around us. When a shell came screaming over, you dug into the sand and held your breath, waited for the blast and shower of stones and debris to follow.
It was just like rain.
And then, cleared a little, right next to you. Perhaps someone you've been talking to half an hour before. They're dead.
There were bodies lying dead everywhere. There was no cover, and the bullets never stopped raining down on us. A lot of my close friends and neighbors were on that beach with me. A lot of them were shot and killed right beside me. Move forward! We crawled through on our bellies, through barbed wire. Were there booby traps or landmines ahead? Move forward! We used wire cutters. Sometimes we threw grenades to make a trail. Dead bodies were tangled in the wire and crawled by them. Sometimes over. The sound of guns was deafening.
We got to the seawall and there were a few places you could go through. The snipers were on the other side, waiting. And booby traps. The snipers were the worst. I took care of a few of those. I still don't know how I got off that beach. How any of us got off alive. Or if there's such a place as hell, that place was it.
along the French coast, we would lower half our winning baseball team into their narrow graves. And now rest beneath those little crosses. Channel waves, still clipped edge, softly lap the pebbled shores.
As I was entering the village, I stumbled, and a bullet sang right past my ear. I saw a movement at the top of a building, spotted the sniper, and got my shot off first. The German pitched down to her, and that was that.
The first French people I saw that day were some men, women, and children crouching in a little cave near the beach, up in the village. People had to run to whatever cover, protection they could find, cellars and fields. Some, I never forget about it, were killed. Others badly wounded.
Suddenly, the booming of guns behind us and the whistling of shells overhead told us our artillery was in. Would you believe it? Right there, an old French woman made us and our artillery look ridiculous. But with a pail in her hand, she sauntered across the field, sat down on her milking stool, and calmly milked her cow. I noticed 3 little girls standing on the front veranda of a home. The house was on the coast road facing north, but opposite to our beach. The girls were all dressed the same in a gray school smock with a white collar and cuffs and long black stockings. They stood there almost motionless, watching the fighting raging about them, as it was an extraordinary show put on for their benefit. Why they were not hit or frightened by the shell explosions, I will never know. We got them down to the beach, where all the civilians were being directed, to the great relief of their relatives already there.
A man ran across the street. He wanted help. We followed him into his house, and there on the floor lay his young wife. Badly beaten. Doc stopped the bleeding with first aid dressing, and she tried to bless herself, and I told her that I was a priest. Give her absolution and extreme unction. Their children, 3 little girls about 4, 6, and 8 looked on, terrified. Maybe as much because of us as because of their mother. I spoke to them, but it only seemed to terrify them all the more. I remember, I had 3 chocolate bars in my pocket, one of my day's rations. I gave them to the little girls, the power of a chocolate bar. The terror vanished, 6 brown eyes. And even there, as terror reigned, the little girls attempted to smile and patted their curly heads. I think she'll live, said the doctor. I told the husband, the doctor had said, thank God and you, he answered. The new light was dancing in 3 sets of big, brown eyes.
I don't remember the exact place. Somewhere between the beach and Tideville. I will never forget that little girl. All alone in a white dress. She was so pretty. Her white dress was covered in blood. I carried her. She was safe.
The North Shore is falling behind in its D-Day objectives. Tideville was due to be captured at noon, and it's now 2 p.m. Pressure is coming from high command to advance quickly. Conflicting reports state Tideville is clear of the enemy.
Company, up!
John Archibald McNaughton, born October 7, 1896, Black River Bridge, New Brunswick. Served in the First World War. Enlisted with the North Shore Regiment in June of 1940, at the age of 43.
I'm Dorothy Williams Strang, born January 27, 1918, in Price Settlement, Patterson Pack. I enlisted with the North Shore Regiment on June 24, 1940.
Private Harold Stanley Daly, born April 15, 1922, in Chatham.
I enlisted with the North Shore Regiment, June 17, 1940.
William Aloysius Savage. On November 4th, 1922, Freddie Boat. I enlisted with the North Shore Regiment on June 11, 1940.
Came up the road from the beach. Saw several North Shore men hiding near a wall. I said not to go around the corner. The Germans were there everywhere, waiting for us to come out.
McNaughton spoke with someone on the radio. They reported it was all clear.
The other soldiers argued with them to not go around. The lad at the other end of the radio thought different. All clear, he said.
Come on, boys, let's go.
It wasn't clear. When we rounded the corner, we realized there was a German machine gun nest set up. We didn't have a chance.
As soon as we stepped out into the open, Germans opened fire on us with an MG-42. The Major was standing in front of me. It happened so fast.
Dead.
Yeah, dead. I was shot in the chest. I dropped and crawled and dragged myself to safety. I survived.
Op het eind van de snelweg van oktober 23, 1911. I used to be spring of 1940. The company was shut down as soon as the end of July. The tally will start. McDonald had been with A Company since its foundation. Like a father to us. One of the most respected officers in the legend. I came up to meet the guys who got up ahead. I set up my blood gun and opened fire on the German machine gun position. The cousin was lying and carrying where he was. They were not hungry. Cut my nose in half. Went to the ground. Nobody here told me to follow the name. And I did. I got like hell. The leg exploded. I got 2 small pieces of shrapnel. My left arm, the side of my left hand. Lucky I was in the ground. It would have been a lot worse. The nose injury was very painful. Lost a lot.
Corporal Leslie Clark was there that day. He had warned McNaughton, Strang, Daly, and Savage not to go around this corner on that fateful day.
We were huddled at the end of the stone wall when Major McNaughton and the others arrived. I told them not to go any farther. I knew there were Germans around that corner, ready to shoot the nose off the first person that stuck their neck out. McNaughton huddled with his radio man, Billy Savage, for a moment, before a voice broke through the static. All clear. Let's go, boys. I think I was the last person to speak to McNaughton. As soon as he and the others turned that corner, the Germans opened fire, killing the Major, Private Harold Daly, and Arthur Strang. Billy Savage, a good friend of mine, was shot in the chest. He miraculously survived. I should have stopped them. How could I? I've spent a lot of sleepless nights reliving that moment. Still see the Major with that goddamn wire stuck in his ear, talking to some son of a... some lad that wasn't even there. Taking orders, that's all. No great God. Monsignor Hickey asked me to make some crosses for the men who had died. So I went into a house, poured some wainscoting off the wall, took a chunk of keel, like a black crayon, and wrote the men's names on the crosses. Each man was wrapped in a blanket, placed in a shallow grave at the base of an apple tree. I collected their dog tags, put each dog tag in a sardine can, and each sardine can at the base of a cross. We held a short service. The sounds of war were still all around us. Major McNaughton was by far the most popular the most respected, and the most durable. Anyone under his command would have fallen into hell. And I believe they did.
A month after the D-Day landings, the front in Normandy was at a standstill. The city of Caen, which was supposed to be captured on D-Day, was still in German hands. Carpiquet and its airfield were essential to the German defense of Caen. If Carpiquet fell, Caen would fall along with the rest of Normandy. Carpiquet was the linchpin of the German defense. Knowing this, the Germans rushed their best troops to the defense of the village, including elements of Hitler's own bodyguard division, of the 1st SS Division, and the 12th SS Hitler Youth Division. These fanatical Nazis were fearless of death, knew what was on the line, and would do everything in their power to stop the upcoming Canadian attack. The North Shore, along with other Canadian regiments, knew what they were in for. The attack would be led by one of the largest artillery bombardments of the war. The North Shore would have to cross an open wheat field with no cover and make their way into the village. Once they were in the village, each house would have to be cleared of the Germans. The men knew that even if they were able to take Carpiquet, they could expect many counterattacks from the Germans to retake the village, especially because of what was at stake. For 4 days and nights, the North Shore held off numerous and lethal counterattacks from Hitler's best troops and held Carpiquet.
But this victory would come at a terrible price for the regiment. 289 men were lost, and when combined with D-Day from June 6th to July 4th, the regiment lost a total of 478 men killed or wounded, half of the original regiment's strength. Major Bill Harvey reflected, there was never the like of those North Shore men for sheer guts and durability.
The Germans lifted their fire, moved along. We found B Company, and taken the whole brunt of the show. Everywhere men lay dead or dying. We anointed about 30 right there. We pushed on until once the town found ourselves in dread. The Germans from the high ground near Caen poured in everything they had on us. There wasn't a building left standing. Even trees were smashed to splinters. Finally, a line of communications. Our jeeps and carriers were paired, and we couldn't get over into that. In a few hours, our carriers broke through and came up to us. Well, we said farewell.
We were crossing a large field full of haystacks. In the haystacks, the Germans were hiding. We waited until we went by, then jumped out and attacked us from behind. There was a lot of thick smoke, and it was difficult to see once the battle began. We started lighting the haystacks on fire to flush them out. There was a lot of hand-to-hand combat crossing that field. The objective was to gain control of the airfield. Shrapnel from an exploding bomb went through my left leg. I laid on the ground, wounded, and unable to move as the shells fell around me. The ground shook and the noise was deafening. In some cases, we were being hit with our own shells, as there was confusion on where the line for the North Shore Regiment was to start. Also, the German shells were falling on them as well.
Late that evening, Major Lockwood and I went back to the wheat field and buried the body, shoveling the snow. In the gathering dusk, you could fancy how the wheat field had been just like any of our wheat fields back home. Now the wheat was trampled into the earth. The ground was torn with shells. And everywhere you looked, you could see the pale, upturned faces of the dead.
I'm sure that sometime during the attack, every man felt he could not go on. Men were being killed or wounded on all sides. The advance seemed pointless as well as hopeless. But then never realized until the attack at Carpiquet how of our discipline, pride of unity, and above all, pride in oneself and family can carry a man, even when each step forward meant possible death.
Carpiquet was the graveyard of the regiment. For 7 days and nights the Germans shelled us, and we lost heavily. We saw reinforcements come up to us in the evening, and I would bury them the following morning. Yes, those of us who came through it never forget that hell called Carpiquet. It was one evening during the Battle of Carpiquet. I was buried in that day's death. I knelt down by a body cut off and identification of dead skin. Something struck me. I looked again at the lifeless face. There he was. The man who had me live that love letter. Went back and started.
Dear Mayor.
Wrote to his wife. Said I prepared her husband for death and buried him. The same voice emerged. Say,
I love you. I love you as much as I love the...
all in the Army, Navy, and Air Force went out to meet the scarlet dawn, especially to those for whom that dawn was the evening of their lives. The angels lead thee into paradise. May the martyrs receive thee at thy coming, and lead thee into the holy city of Jerusalem. May the choirs of angels receive thee, and mayest thou have eternal rest.
Lost all sense of time. It was, you were just there and you did what you could. And when you come to a fellow, when I come to a fellow dying, and tell him that he was dying, you'd get a nod of the head from him, and if he were in IRC, I'd anoint him. This was all done automatically and in a matter of a second each year.
So, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Rated for Commanding Officer of the North Shore, really proud to be the Commanding Officer, and here tonight is a great event. Firstly, if you'd like to join me, I'd like to really thank these people for putting The performance of tonight is really a reflection of all the units
stories that this region has basically done. Up to about 1990, we can honestly say the North Shore Regiment was the forgotten regiment. And some leading people took charge, go back in history, and try to bring justice to the people of the North for what they've done. And that permeated into a couple of books that were written. But about 3-4 years ago, with obviously Brendan and the team here with Miramichi Valley High School and the Anglophone School District, we took it upon ourselves to basically relive the Live of the North Shore, because it is important. It is part of our history, it's part of our regional DNA, and we're quite proud of what we have here, and we have to communicate that to the younger generation. It is important that we do that. We started on our journey. We basically did the change of colors and the 75th commemoration event in Bathurst on the 19th of May. We followed that up with the trip that the school staff and the students participated. It was a life experience. I've seen these individuals here, these young adults, grow by the day. They've lived the past, they understand better, they were immersed into an environment that's going to make them a better person. And now they carry the duty to remember, the torch of remembrance, as we say, and they're proud of that, and they're carrying that on, and we're good to go. Next year, we obviously going to have a big event. It's going to be here on the 6th of June 2020. This is where we will retire the old colors of the RNBR, which were the first color we received as the North Shore Regiment. That will happen at the Basilica where Monsignor Key was the Monsignor back then. So you're going to be invited, and we hope that we're going to do that together, because together it is paying respect to the old people that were there before us, all the sacrifices that we did, and once and for all, this regiment will not be forgotten anymore because of hard people, hard work like these guys. So this is in Canada, but this is also going on overseas. We have people working in the background doing a lot of great things. Mr. Arnaud Blaine here, some of the video pictures that you've seen, he is the guy that researched that at his end, because they also were impacted by the war and what the North Shore Regiment did. They liberated Saint-Domingue-sur-Mer, and they were a key part in the success of what we achieved during the Second World War. So what we'd like to do now is I'd like to ask Brendan and Chris to come forward, and what we'll present is basically a coin, a commemorative coin for the 75th anniversary, and that is the least we can do for a person that's fighting on our behalf as the North Shore, as a region, to represent what these folks did over there. So, Monsieur Blaine, au nom de tout le monde du régiment, tout le monde ici à l'école, on veut vous remettre cette pièce en argent commémorative pour le 15e anniversaire avec le soldat Baker, qui évidemment est un membre qui était sur ça. Je vais vous le donner. Brendan, if you want to come, Chris, come forward. And what we'd like to do is, I also would like to present them with a North Shore Regiment officer's badge. That is always something good to have, and for all the hard work he's done with the years, he certainly deserves to be recognized in this fashion. Monsieur Blanc, voici une badge.
Les Français ont déjà un gros accent, mais quand je parle en anglais, c'est pire. Donc, je voulais juste dire une chose, c'est qu'on a parlé de Carpiquet. Carpiquet était le cimetière du North Shore, et ça a été aussi le cimetière des civils à Carpiquet. Vous pouvez imaginer que les Français qui étaient à Carpiquet sont restés un mois dans les carrières à subir les bombardements. Il faut aussi penser aux civils qui étaient là, et tous les...
So what he's saying is, Carpiquet was the scene of the North Shore. We certainly lost a lot of people over there, but he certainly wants to highlight all the civilians that suffer as a result of that. Civilians in Carpiquet spent over a month in quarries just enduring the bombardments from the coalition as well as the German people.
Et c'est vrai que j'ai eu la chance de rencontrer des vétérans du North Shore, et ça a changé ma vision que j'avais des pays.
Mr. Blaine had a chance to meet the North Shore veterans, and for him, exchange his perspective. It is his perspective on veterans.
Et à chaque fois que je viens au Canada, je vais les voir. Et hier, j'étais avec M. Arthur Haché, qui était dans le North Shore.
And every time he's got the opportunity to come to Canada, he goes see the veterans of the North Shore Regiment. And yesterday, as an example, he went to see Mr. Arthur Haché, who lives in Carrigan.
En tout cas, sachez que c'est sincère. Les gens en Normandie ont une immense reconnaissance pour ce que vous avez tous fait, ce qu'ils ont fait.
And what he wants to communicate is certainly people in Haiti are extremely sincere about the recognition they have for what people in New Brunswick have done to liberate their communities.
Ce n'est pas une reconnaissance uniquement quand c'est le 60, 70, 75e.
It's not something that goes every 5 years. It's something that is lived over there on a daily basis to the fact that they're rarely recognizant for what we've done for them. Thank you. As a bit of bonus now, Mr. Glynn's being very modest here. When we were over on June 6th, Mr. Glynn was responsible for a lot of the footage you saw, not only historical, but even the actual footage of our visit. And about July, we received a video from him, and we had to keep it under wraps because it is his work, but we have a pleasure with his permission to show the clip, and it is stunning. We haven't been able to show it to anyone else, so you guys get a first glimpse of that, and we'll give you a show.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, we have already come. 'Twas grace that brought us safe thus far, and grace will lead us home. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we know there's days to sing God's praise, and when we first begun.
I personally want to thank everyone for joining with us with this experience. You know, there's a lot of people to thank. Lieutenant Colonel has been great for the last couple of
years. A lot of the different accessories that you see with the students, even how we should be dressing them on June 5th, Ray's really gone above and beyond. Another person I do want to recognize, and he's going to kill me for doing it, and I'm not asking to come up, but I do have one for you here, Ken. Ken Weatherby, for the last few decades, has been collecting these uniforms as an important aspect of remembrance. And if it wasn't for his collection and his generosity in loaning these, we would not have had these take over seats with us for the D-Day ceremonies, and we wouldn't have them here today. And a number of the props here as well that you see here are all from his collection to give a real authenticity to the act of remembrance. And I want to I'm not sure where you are, Ken, but don't be aware of this if you're getting one of these.
I'm sorry, we can't take it back now. We thank you.
Lastly, just to let you know, I guess with the project work, your money is going towards the North Shore Remembrance Project, and there's a couple things on the go. One we were hoping to have finished, and it's still a work in progress, is a large 12-foot wide display cabinet that we're going to have just outside this hall along the Harkins Remembrance, or it's not Harkins, sorry, the opposite wall. And a number of the items that you see here that have been donated by Ken Weatherby will be displayed there. Not only just for the general public, but again, to further the act of remembrance and education for our students, to actually get a first-hand account of these artifacts, to see that there's a real-life aspect to honoring these, these brave men and women who fought for us on our behalf. The last thing, and this is kind of us publicly announcing it, and then I'll throw the last words to the director here. Miramichi Valley was one of 1,000 high schools selected across the country and received 75 royal orange tulip bulbs from the Dutch royal family. We also are, the school purchased 75 Canadian colored tulip bulbs, and with your generosity here this evening, we're having a bed constructed at the front of the school with the hope that if all goes well and the tulips bloom on time, May 5th, we will be engaging with the Dutch community of the Miramichi and with the hopes of having a VE Day commemoration at the front of the school, and maybe we'll call back Chris Matheson services again and these fine ladies and gentlemen maybe to do another sort of demonstration as you saw here today.
Again, I'd just like to echo some of what Brandon says. There's too many people to thank without the chance of missing someone, but it's been such a, this is sort of the culmination of 2 years of work building up to taking the kids to Juneau last June, and this is sort of, the icing at the cake kind of thing to finish things off. But we just had such great community support. We've had such great support from our administration. We've had such great support from the North Shore Regiment, from Ken Weatherby, from so many people. But personally, our big thing is we're sort of a pyramid here of myself and Brandon and Brett Cameron, who's back there in the darkness somewhere. And Brandon kind of, is the history, big picture guy. Brett's the logistics guy, and I'm the theater guy. And I'm only as good as I look as a theater guy, director, because of these people. And I can't acknowledge them enough, because too much we say of this generation, they're not engaged, they don't do anything, they're all bad, they're all trouble, they're all drug. They're not. There's tons of good ones out there. They're here on the stage. As long as there are kids like this up here on the stage, we will never forget, we will always remember. I really will keep that. So I'm big on the whole engaging the youth and the community. So that's what we're doing. So again, thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for everyone to help make this a possibility. It's true. This has been truly a life-changing experience for all of us, the students, and for us as well. So, and we appreciate you being here.
Sure. I missed out somebody. Mr. John Forbes. Okay, one of the last World War II veterans. He's away from home. He belongs to the Glengarry Fencers, which are somewhere in Ontario. We, the North Shore, adapted him as one of our
Thank you, Colonel.
All right, I guess we're done, folks. Thanks you very much for coming.
Stick around if you want to, in the lobby. Our fine students here will come for any photo ops or even chat with you in your
I'll
uniform.
turn the lights off the side. I'll